Have you guys ever read or watched a work that you can tell right off the bat that it wasn't going to be very good? Like on an instinctual level. I'm not talking about works that you just absolutely hate with a passion that causes you to give it a low score. I'm talking about works that are just purely poor performers in general. So I'm not going to sugarcoat this particular visual novel. Real Life Plus, featuring Kaname Komatsuzaki, isn't a good visual novel. I don't recommend reading it. It gets a 1 out of 5 from me. But while I could go on and rant about how bad this visual novel is, I don't find enjoyment from doing that. Instead, this video is going to be a bit different. While we are going to take a look at Real Life Plus, I'm also going to be providing a bit of commentary talking about what I believe a bare bones visual novel should strive to have and how Real Life Plus can be used as an example. Welcome to the August Tale, and today we're going to be taking a look at Real Life Plus. The premise of Real Life Plus is that you play the main character Koichi and interact with his childhood friend Kaname, as the both of you grow up from being children to being adults. The game is segmented into sections where you can choose different choices that will ultimately affect how Kaname grows up as an adult. The visual novel's prime feature, and only feature, is that there are lots of different endings to explore, and it feels like a collectathon where your unconscious goal is to collect all of the CGs. This is practically the essence of a traditional anime visual novel. You play as the self-insert character in a dating scenario where you pick choices, and depending on your choice, affects what ending you get. The good ending or the bad ending. Immediately, when you open up this visual novel, you have this UI that screams default settings. The main menu is as simple as you can get with a default Arial looking font. I won't mind the resolution too much for a visual novel published in 2013, but I do wonder why the publishers decide to adapt this visual novel in 2020 when we have much more crisp and refined visual novels in 720p and 1080p resolutions. My biggest complaint though is the visual contrast. Whenever you open up the backlog in the main menu, there is a clear lack of defining contrast between the foreground and the background, making the text difficult to read. Even in the main text boxes themselves, Real Life Plus decides to have white text on a bright pink background. I cannot stress this enough. For anyone that's designing anything visual, please have an idea of contrast. It is much harder to read text on bright backgrounds if the text is also bright. White text on a bright green or pink background is much harder to read compared to white text on a black or dark blue background. If you need the text to pop out more, you can always add shadows and outlines to the text to help. As a test, if you can still read your prompt if you are a considerable distance away, that's good. There's a reason why some visual novels have the option in the settings to lower the opacity. It's so people can read the text. And for a visual novel in which all you're doing is reading, being able to see the text is kind of important. Besides the UI elements, the art style of the visual novel lacks any unique quality to it. The background CGs are a combination of a generic looking slice of life scenery shots with no special CGs outside of the H scenes. Visual novels set in a school setting are the toughest when it comes to this. It's hard to differentiate because more often than not, the majority of them take place in school. This leaves mostly two options. Either make the school setting unique in a way that largely differs from any other school life visual novel, or have CGs that take place outside of this setting to help it stand out. Back to the visual novel, the sound mastering is not balanced correctly. Right when I booted up the game, I was overblown with how loud the background music and sound effects were compared to the voices. I could barely hear any of the voices at all. Usually when I read visual novels, I turn the music down a slight bit, but for this, I turned it way down. Now I understand this a bit. I double check myself with sound mastering all the time when editing these review videos. I like adding the music from the visual novel to have as ambient background music, but I also have to consider my voiceover as well to make sure that the background music doesn't overpower the voiceover. Background music is supposed to either elevate the scene or serve as ambience just by being present, while also not being a distraction to the overall story. Real Life Plus falls into the latter category, and with forgettable song tracks, it does not help. As for the actual story itself, the writing and characterization are bland. For a slice of life visual novel, lots of moments are focused on conversations between the main character and Kaname. However, these moments are dull and lack any real character to them. What I can tell you is that the main character only likes anime and video games, and later on in life, the urge to bone his childhood friend. There's no other defining character trait to this guy. Even for a self-insert character, there's got to be some semblance of a personality. Here, it's merely a character archetype. The disadvantage of a self-insert character is that they are usually blank slates, and the main character comes off as incredibly dull and boring as a result. Now Kaname isn't much better either. She merely goes along with the main character's whims and doesn't stand out as a heroine besides just being the main character's childhood friend. There's some semblance of drama in the visual novel at the very end, but it feels very artificial and trivial, given how short these made-up conflicts are. There's a moment where the main character sees Kaname going out with another dude, and it's discussed for like 4 paragraphs of text before resolving itself. The idea is there for this premise. You can influence the personality of Kaname as the main character grows up with her, and this premise can show off how people can change as time goes on. However, in Real Life Plus, these moments are strictly showing Kaname from point A to point B without showing the transition or development from point A to point B. Instead here, it just feels lazy in execution given how short it is to be able to be completed in a couple of hours. Well, if you made it to the end, congratulations. To summarize, I can't recommend this visual novel. It's a bare bones visual novel that lacks any real character and production value to recommend any feature of it. I give it a 1 out of 5 rating. Real Life Plus feels more like a school game project if anything. And while I could have skipped this visual novel and called it a day, I decided to review it because I took this opportunity to give this video a more critical spin on it, to discuss what I'm looking for a simple bare bone visual novel. Let me know what you guys want to see as the minimum bar in visual novels, as well as what you want to see from visual novels in general, like your ideals. I would love to hear them. You're also free to disagree with me as well, as I would be interested in your thoughts and perspective. Subscribe if you liked the video and want to see more. Check back every week for new content. For more of my thoughts and the most up-to-date news on videos, you can find me on Twitter at TheAugustTale. Check out some of my other anime visual novel reviews on my channel playlist. Links are in the description down below. That's it for today. I'll see you guys next time.